Good morning and welcome back to the farm. I went and got some parts over at the auto parts store yesterday and installed them. And well, let me just show you what I did. So yesterday I went and got rid of the PCV hose off of this and put a breather on it because it thinks it's 1967. And I went and I plugged the vacuum port on the back of the carburetor, the one that normally goes to power brakes, so it was probably sucking pretty hard. And I've gotten rid of most of the whistle, but not all of the whistle, which tells me I got another problem somewhere. Not real sure where, but we're going to figure it out. Well, I'll admit it, I'm a little frustrated. I've spent part of today fiddling with this thing. Went after it with my trusty fantastic screwdriver again. Went after it with the timing light again. Put the vacuum gauge on it again. After I got rid of the PCV valve and put a breather on it, that seemed to get rid of quite a bit of the annoying vacuum whistle, but it didn't solve the problem. So got some handy dandy brake cleaner and some carb cleaner, and went around the intake manifold, squirting in various places, looking to see where I could find the vacuum leak, and couldn't find it. And so I started going around with a big old pry bar, putting it up against the intake manifold and various places on the top of the engine and everything, and putting it up to my ear, and wasn't hearing the whistle. I'm starting to think the whistle is either the bearings in the alternator, which was something I've thought about for a while, but I'm not so sure about that. Because when I go and put the screwdriver or the pry bar against there and put my ear up against it, all I hear is a grinding noise. Again, that could be the bearings in the alternator. However, what really scared me is I run this thing up to about 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 RPM and let it run for a few minutes, and you could smell it. It's running rich when you get it up around 3,000 RPM. And then when you let off of it at 3,000 RPM, it backfires. And this tells me that the secondaries in this is just dribbling fuel into the engine. You can hear it when it gets to 3,000 RPM. If you've got a good ear, you can hear a intermittent staccato sort of a pop, but it's not a pop, it's more like a missing spot in the firing order. You know, at idle, these things will go boom, 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 boom. When you run them up to 3,000 RPM, you should hear a Instead of that, I'm hearing little tiny dead spots. It's hard to describe unless you can hear it yourself. And the audio on this thing would never allow you to hear it, but it's drowning. It's drowning in fuel at higher RPM. And this goes back to the carburetor. This carburetor is, I don't know if anybody has touched this thing since 1995. And Lord only knows what kind of crud is in it and what kind of stuff is congealed in it. And fell at the auto parts store as well. Sounds like time to rebuild it. I said, you're right. Probably is. However, I would rather prove myself right in my assumption by putting a new carburetor on here, a new one with all the little rubber pieces that are brand spanking new inside of it, all the passages clear, and you know, you've got a reasonable expectation from the Holley factory that it may not be tuned for this engine, but it's going to work. Whereas this one got 21,000 miles on it and been sitting in somebody's garage for a long time. So I think I'm going to go and pick the nuclear option. And boom, we have the nuclear option. Brand new carburetor. Never been used. Never been opened. Arrived at my door. Let's see what we got. Packing material. Lots of plastic. Fancy little cover. And voila. Wow. Got a free warranty. Hope so. Brand spanking new. Never been touched by the hand of man. Sort of. Wow. All the stuff is all capped off. Okay, there's not even any fingerprints on it. The other option is this. This is the rebuild kit for the carburetor that's in there. I may go ahead and do this, but this will do me just fine. I think we're going to put this on there because, according to what I've been told, it's set real close from the factory. You should just be able to put it on there, get it to start, and then maybe, you know, diddle with your RPMs. You know, the throttle adjustment here for your idle. I don't know about that. But I can tell you right now, the accelerator pump is already adjusted properly. And by looking at the idle screws, they look about right. This has got a choke on it, whereas mine has no choke. Kind of like to have that ability to have a choke. I think that might work. It's got all of the vacuum ports in the right places for various things. I think this might just be the trick. Everything's tight. Even comes with new gaskets and everything. As much as I hate to do it, I'm going to do it. And here's why I hate it. This thing is silver. It's shiny. It's nickel plated, not chrome. Just nickel plated, but golly, that's shiny. I don't necessarily want shiny, but I'll deal with it. We'll see how this works out. I got my fingers crossed. And now, due to the magic of video editing, the old carburetor is now off. Good Lord, it's wet in there. Yeah, it's been dumping fuel. Well, now what? Here's the new one. Here's the old one. And just taking it off, it's like the intake manifold underneath it is soaked with gasoline. So this thing's been dribbling for a while. Yeah, it's kind of oogly looking. And, you know, I'm starting to see why it might have... Oh, I got gasoline all over the table now. That was stupid. The gasket is back there, but there's half a gasket still on here. But that one's complete. But this one's not. What do you want to bet? It had some problems between the two that wasn't two. Jeez, I'm gonna have to clean up all this gasoline. Ah! Don't anybody light a match? I can't believe I did that. That was stupid. Needless to say, I'm going to put this aside. Like, way aside. Somewhere. I think I'm going to just wait a few minutes and let all these gasoline fumes blow on out of here before I go and start tearing things apart. I've got to change out a fitting on here to match the other one so that my old fuel system will hook directly up to it. And we're just waiting for the gasoline fumes to clear out of the barn. We'll be back in a minute. Well, maybe a couple more minutes. Walked outside, walked back inside, still smells like gasoline. I went and I pulled this banjo fitting off here for the fuel, and I'm transferring the fitting that was on the other one, and this one had a real cool little stainless steel screen right there as a last ditch effort to be a filter, which I think is kind of cool. So I'm going ahead and transferred it from the banjo bolt over onto this. That ought to work like a champ. Wrong size. Nice and tight. Got that little crush washer in there. Ought to seal it up nice. Now we've got to go and put it on the car. I gotta go clean the old gasket off there first. Yeah, it doesn't look good. Well, I just finished removing the carburetor gasket from the intake manifold, and somebody a long time ago used a little bit of RTV on this thing, which you are not supposed to do. And so, yeah, I had a lot of fun cleaning that off with a scraper and a little bit of sandpaper, and got it all clean, and it's ready for the new gasket. So I'm going to go put that on and see what I got to do about installing this. While I was taking this apart to get the gasket, I found instructions. Holley Street Warrior Carburetor. Installation, tuning, and adjustment manual. I think I need to sit down with a glass of bourbon and read over this evening, and before I go and jump too much into it. And yeah, we'll figure out how to get this thing in. It even tells me how to hook up the transmission kickdown, which hole to use, which for the throttle. Yeah, it's Yeah, I think I'm actually going to read this after I go and slap this thing on the car just to make sure I'm doing it right. So, yeah, dinner and a glass of bourbon and some reading. We'll see. Yeah, let's see if we get this thing lined up. It's supposed to go that way. No, it's supposed to go that way. Come on. I'm on. Okay, now I need to torque it. Okay, it said between 60 and 80 inch-pounds. So I set my thing for 70 inch-pounds. There we go. Do this one. There we go. $70 inch-pounds. There we go. So we're torqued down and ready to go. And just because I'm chicken, I don't want to drop anything down the engine. Oh, I need my stud to connect it. I went and pulled the stud off of my old carburetor. It ought to work. It's about the right height. Screw that in. Give it a little bit of tighten, not much. Less than a quarter turn. Yeah, I do not want to drop anything down in the engine. So here we go, my insurance policy. Come on. There we go. Okay. We're good to go there. I think I need a washer, but I think we're okay. And my wife just walked in. I bet you it's dinner time. I don't have my watch on, dear.
It's what's for dinner time.
What's for dinner?
Yeah.
What is for dinner?
Well,
What did you make?
we haven't yet. We could have crunchy tacos or some kind of nachos or something.
Well, come and bask in my greatness. Does it look new?
Will it fit?
Yeah, it'll fit.
Okay.
It's awfully new and awfully shiny, and now I've got to, since I found the instructions, I'm going to sit down with some bourbon and read the instructions and make sure I do this right.
I was talking about this, because
Yeah.
I thought you had height issues, sir.
I did. And now that I've got the air cleaner put on, I think I need a washer or something.
Maybe so.
But we're getting there. The old carburetor looks pretty gnarly. Now we put everything back together. And I'm about to start trying to figure out how much it's going to take to get fuel into this. And I think I got it all set up. We got the carburetor mounted, got everything torqued down, and then I discovered that the return spring setup that I had wasn't going to work because it kind of hung up the throttle opening. So I went and I searched because I knew I had a return spring rig for this kind of setup someplace, somewhere in one of my storage units from 20 years ago. And I found it brand new in the box, never been opened, never been used. And yeah, it took a little bit of finagling to get on here. And now that it's on, I'm really itching to see if it works. Let me show you what we ended up having to install. This little spring setup right here, I had to dig that out of storage. It's got bracket and some springs, and then it has little spacers that work here, and everything is all free floating once it's all tightened down so that nothing binds up. And now I've got a return spring. The spring rig that I had before was one spring from the bottom pulled back to this blue bracket that you see back here. And that interfered with this little doodad, which is the kick down for the automatic transmission. And you don't want your throttle linkage binding up, so nothing is binding now, and it's ready to rock and roll. I mean, it's nice and easy, and it's got a little more tension than it used to, but that's okay. I want to go and fill up this thing with fuel and see if we've got fuel leaks or anything, and I want to hear it start before I go to bed tonight. We're going to see if it sprays fuel everywhere first. Okay, ran the fuel pump a little bit. I don't see any fuel leaks, so that's a good thing. Wow. Okay. I I'm impressed. That'll work. Okay. Got a little interference here. There we go. Nope. Okay. Here we go. No interference. Let's double check. No fuel leaks. That already sounds better than it did before. Oh, I am so happy. New carburetor, nuclear option, but it worked. Well, it's about 10 o'clock at night, and it worked. Probably pissed off a couple of neighbors by starting this up, but it worked. And I found a set of springs that made it work. Lucky I don't throw hot rod stuff and car parts away, otherwise I wouldn't have had that laying around. I am amazed. But tomorrow, I guess, I'll get to go and put a vacuum gauge on it and see just how close to tuned we are and see how much better it is than it was. I have no idea how far off we are, but it already sounds better than it did just starting it up and letting it idle when it's cold. I'm tickled to death. So, thanks for hanging out with me. Come back and see us. Tomorrow I'm going to jump in here and see what else I can do with it so I can go and take it for a drive.